Now, a few weeks ago, we spoke to a gentleman who was looking after the ambulance service, and he was from an organisation of Christians who join together, who work in the NHS, and they drive the ambulances. They get people where they need to be, and he was telling us all about why they do it and the heart behind why they do it. Well, this is starting a new series with us, and I'm really excited for it. So we've done the ambulance service, and now we want to move on to the fire service, which is why we've got Simon Hewitt with us right now from Firefighters For Christ. Good morning, Simon.
Good morning, Gareth. How are you this morning?
I'm very well. Now, I must say that you do look like a fireman. You're exactly what I expected, because they tend to be quite lean. You never see, well, I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, you'll know a lot more than me, but you never see an overweight fireman, or do you? Dare you say that?
Sometimes you do, but we have to keep fit.
Well, I mean, I can actually vouch for this, because when I worked at another radio station for a weekend, I trained to be a fireman. Now, of course, I didn't do all the whole training because I wasn't allowed to, but they crammed in as much as they possibly could in the 2 days that I was there. Now, I like to pride myself on being quite a fit young chap. Well, a chap. I was a young chap back then. But the thing is now is that I was absolutely worn out. And I was blown away by what goes into the training. Now, I had in the back of my mind, I was thinking, well, don't worry, because this is just training and they won't let any harm come to me. But the thought of having to go into a building when there's smoke coming at you, there's heat, you have to carry the massive breathing apparatus on your back, you have to look for people, is a terrifying thing. So just tell us about your career, really. When did it start, and why did you want to become a firefighter?
Well, my career started in 1988. I wanted to join the police service initially, but there's a height restriction. I was about 1 inch under. But later in my life, I joined the fire service. I tell you what, it's an amazing experience. It's teamwork, it's camaraderie. I would say that the fire service has got a unique DNA. And even with Firefighters For Christ, wherever you go in the world, we might approach from a different angle, but we all achieve the same objective. And that's to save life, to save property, and to save the environment.
Which is amazing, really, because, again, you mentioned it's a team and the camaraderie that happens. Now, I remember experiencing that, because it was like you're with the same watch, aren't you? You're with one watch and it'll be the same fellas. So you do get very, very close. And I remember just the socializing, because you're not out on calls all the time. But when you're not out on calls, you'll be checking the kit. You'll be putting diesel in the truck. You'll be doing all this. But also, I remember they would take it in turns to cook for each other. So in an evening time, you would know that, I don't know, Eric, he's doing the evening meal tonight, and he'd be really good at cooking steak and stuff like that. So he'd be the one doing that. And it was a real great experience. But you know something? What made you want to risk your life? Because in particular, nowadays, it can be very, very dangerous. I mean, it's always been dangerous. I know that sounds silly, but at the moment, you're going into buildings where there's chemicals there. And also, I mean, I heard some dreadful tales of where squatters will set buildings on fire, and then they will set traps to actually harm the emergency services. So why did you want to get into all that?
To me, I found the fire service, initially it was security. The job I was in before, I thought, if I was to die or something happened to me, there's nothing for my family. But the fire service, there's a career path, and also there's security. So if I had died or something happened to me, they'll be there to care for me and to support me.
And so, do you remember your first call out? Is that the one that you think, I remember that first one when I was a qualified fireman and the bell went and how I went?
I'll tell you what, Gareth, one of the first experiences I had was at a road traffic collision. And we went to this vehicle which had this car which had gone into the back of an articulated trailer, which was parked in the lay-by. And the car was buried halfway under the back of the articulated trailer. And the thing that stuck in my mind, there's 2 booster seats in the back of that car. So you think, that's a family man. He left home, like we all do, say goodbye to our family, expect to see them when we come back. That person never came back. So he said goodbye to his family, not knowing what's going to happen to him, and he died in that road traffic collision. And his family never saw him again. And that sticks in my mind. As many experiences. I've just come off a 1-hour prayer meeting with Transform Work UK and praying about the fire service. And I was just sharing with them that every firefighter will have experiences that will stick with them for the rest of their lives. And that can be quite traumatic sometimes, because PTSD and the emotional issues that firefighters struggle with is massive. You know, I've been to other incidents whereby you'll have a lady in a wheelchair and she was involved in a house fire and never survived. I was in California, San Diego, with Firefighters For Christ, we had what we call ride-alongs. And I was privileged to ride with the San Diego Fire Department. And we went to an apartment fire, a condo fire, as a result of smoking. And what had happened was that the evening before, the smoke detector went off because of smoke, and they thought they'd put the fire out. The next morning, the smoke detector went off, they went out, but the cat was missing. And the lady went back into the house to get the cat. And neither the lady nor the cat came out.
Dear me.
They perished.
The thing is, so as a Christian, how do you deal with that? Because, I mean, to just be a human being in general, to deal with that sort of thing. I mean, I'm a father of 2. And you were saying about the booster seats, how I can't imagine what goes through a firefighter's mind when they turn up at something like that and they see that the car has basically been swallowed up by a truck. There's a human being or human beings in there, and then you see the car seats. How do you, as a human being, but most importantly as a Christian, because you're doing your job to help people, which I believe is what Christ calls us to do anyway.
Yes.
But this trauma that you see, what do you do with that?
You just have to. The thing with the fire department, you work as a team. So you're never on your own. But I think the risk is you become emotionally hard. So you become hardened to these situations. But I think as a Christian, you just have to say, Lord, just help me with this situation. Sometimes we deal with casualties who are struggling emotionally and medically. And you just have to be given the grace and the peace and the strength and the emotional strength to help that person cope with whatever they're experiencing. There are many situations we've all experienced in the fire department whereby people are just struggling, and you just have to be there, and you have to provide pastoral care to just help them understand what's happening, help them to deal with the situation.
Which I suppose is exactly what Firefighters for Christ is all about. So let's just touch on the organisation, because what's exciting is you were telling us there that you travel around the world, and it's an organisation throughout the whole world, isn't it? And you've all got this same thing in common. Now, there may be different colour fire suits that you wear. There may be different trucks that you drive, but you're all doing the same thing, aren't you? So how did this organisation come about, and why did it come about?
I've just made some notes here. The organisation came about through a guy called John White. Unfortunately, he died in 2018 in November, but he's a 45-year veteran in Los Angeles City. And Firefighters For Christ started in January, officially 1978. And the basis of Firefighters For Christ is this, and it's based on Hebrews 10, verses 24 and 25, and I'll just read them out. And let us consider how we may spur one another on towards love and good deeds. Let us not give up meeting together, as some are in the habit of doing, but let us encourage one another, and all the more as you see the day approaching. And the purpose of Firefighters for Christ is this: to glorify God in the fire service, to fellowship together for individual growth in the Christian life, to serve the cause of Christ through the church of one's own choice, to encourage those in the fire service in their Christian life, to bring all Christians in the fire service to a common goal of prayer for the fire service and its members, and to be perfected in unity so that the world would know that God has sent his Son, Jesus Christ. There's chapters all over the world, all over the States, because basically it started off in the United States, in California. And John was speaking to two ladies in the early part of Firefighters for Christ. And the two ladies said to him, how can we pray for Firefighters for Christ? And John was going to say about praying for, because Firefighters for Christ is based on prayer. It all started with John and another person praying at the beginning of their shift. It then spread to the whole fire station. And he was going to say to the ladies about the station or about the States. And he ended up saying, pray that Firefighters for Christ would be effective across the whole world. And it has. And I've been privileged to travel to the US, to the Philippines. I'm hopefully going to the Philippines in January to do some training there. Next week, I'm off to Italy to meet some Christian firefighters there, and to Germany. And there might be chapters starting in Italy. We just had a meeting this morning. An Australian was involved. Hopefully go to Australia to encourage them, the guys there. A guy called Bob Amici. His prayer is, and humanly speaking, it's impossible, but nothing's impossible for God, that there'll be a Christian firefighter in every fire station in the world.
And are you anywhere near that? What percentage do you think you're up to at the moment?
I have no idea. We have a long way to go. We have a long way to go, but that's our goal, we're there to support and to encourage. And we have, the chapters have monthly meetings. I head up a virtual chapter in Europe. It started off about 18 months ago. And we've got contacts in Zambia, in Australia. Okay, I say Europe. The virtual situation now, there's no limitations. We have contacts in Romania, in Moldova, in Italy, Germany, Sweden, and in England as well. So I just feel privileged not only to be a firefighter, but also to be involved in Firefighters for Christ and to encourage firefighters to live their lives for Jesus Christ, which is the main core of our mission.
So tell us how we can be praying for you. Tell us the need of the organization at the moment, and also how we can find out more.
Well, there is a website, firefightersforchrist.org, I believe it is. Pray for each Christian firefighter. We're not a membership organization as other charities are, but we have associates. And just pray that every single Christian firefighter would be an influence, a positive influence on a fire station. Because the fire service, and as a firefighter, it can be very emotional. And people deal with emotions in many different ways. And my prayer is that in England, we'll have a representative in all parts of the country. And also as chapters start up in different places in Europe and indeed around the world, that we can just be there to support. I feel my calling to be there to support Christians. And if I can go onto a fire station and talk about Jesus Christ, provide some support, provide what we call strap training. So there's a 2-meter nylon strap, which we use to, it's an icebreaker. And we give them the strap and the carabiner, do some knots and show them how they can use that tool for their advantage. and help them on the fire ground. We've had 2 Canadian firefighters twice coming to England to ride along with some of the guys in Suffolk, which is where I was serving. And they still, when I've met them, they still talk about it. So hopefully there's a positive that we can be there to support and to encourage and just share the love of Jesus Christ.
It's powerful stuff. And Simon, thank you very much for your time. And we'll be praying for you. And we expect that many more people will as well. And stay safe, won't you? And I mean that to you and all the thousands, the millions of firefighters out there. Because literally, without you guys, I don't know what we do. Genuinely, because it is like all these emergency services where when you're in that state of panic and you see the professionals arrive, your heart begins to go, oh, thank goodness that they're here and they'll be able to take over. So love and protection and prayers to you and all, Simon, and have a great day, won't you?
Thank you for the opportunity.